Okay. It's weird. Hello. It's another one. Good morning. Good afternoon. It's afternoon. I don't know how to start these. It's weird. Like I press the button, and then I press that button, and then I gotta I don't know. I gotta put on the face. Well, good morning. Um, I have this coffee, and it's like cold brew. It's like very acidic and kind of disgusting. So I like make a face when I drink it, like that every time. Not a big fan. I didn't expect it to be so gross. I mostly drink like I drink like black coffee, and I like it kind of rich. Um, Actually, the coffee at my college used to be pretty good, but then they uh they lost their like license with it, so now they have another supplier, and it's like their coffee is so disgusting and like acidic now, and it makes me really sad. And I think they hired some new people. I don't know. Every time I get a coffee from there, I always get like a little a little pile of grounds at the bottom, which is just it's messed up, man. But anyways, I wanted to talk about. I watched the movie The Graduate yesterday night, and I thought it was pretty interesting. So I wanted to talk about it a little bit. Um, it's from like I think '67. It's Dustin Hoffman. He's kind of young. I never The only other movie I've seen him in is Kramer versus Kramer, and he was pretty good in that. But he's like 10 years older. So it was interesting seeing him as a little kid. Not a little kid, he's like 20 something, but um, so he's kind of like this. He just graduated from his undergraduate, and he comes back home, and he's got nothing going on, and he gets all sad, and then uh, this like this older lady who's his dad's business partner's wife starts coming on to him hard, and then they start having sex, and then uh, yeah, hilarity ensues. Um, it was interesting. I wouldn't expect him. Well, first of all, it was kind of billed as a comedy, so I didn't really expect it to be so like it wasn't that funny. It was kind of a weird, sad movie. Um, he's but it is kind of funny as it starts, and she's kind of coming on to him because he kind of plays like an awkward role, and then he he does these like little honks like it's really weird. I wouldn't expect him because he's so monotone. Like he's still so monotone too, so it's kind of like a weird thing to have him playing like an awkward kind of kid. But I thought it was funny, um, interesting kind of way. But yeah, it's kind of a sad movie because they, he gets back home. He's like unsure about what he wants to do. He doesn't want to go to grad school. I forget if they said what he did in college, but he's like, I don't know. Like he's not looking for a job, and he doesn't want to go to grad school. So he's just kind of effing around at home, and then they start having their affair and stuff, and it's just very nothing. And then there's this great scene where my computer screen keeps going dim. That's driving me nuts. Um, they come together, and then he's trying to have a conversation with her, and then she's just like not receptive. Like she doesn't want to talk. She just wants the sex, and it was very like I'm still thinking about it. It's funny too because they kind of go from they get out of bed and start getting dressed, and then they kind of talk each other out of the conflict, and then start getting back in bed and undressing. It's kind of a weird and awkward scene as it goes on. Um, oh, one of the major conflict that comes up is that her the other family's daughter comes home from college, and then they're like Dustin Hoffman's character and her are like the same age, so and then their parents are like, you should go on a date and whatever, but the mom he's having an affair with doesn't want that happening. And I, I'm, I'm still thinking about what her kind of motivation was, because her whole thing is that she's, she got knocked up in college by her husband, and then she kind of became a housewife with no, she was taking art in college and had to drop it. I thought that was very sad. I thought it would have gone in a direction of, trying to give her some help, but her BS ends up, her life problems end up unresolved by the end of the movie. So that was kind of part of the sad element. But what was I saying? Yeah, she's like, it's kind of up in the air, because they're having their like spat in the hotel room, and she's like, it ends up being like, you're not good enough for my daughter. And then I'm not sure if it was because, she didn't want Dustin Hoffman kid with her daughter because she didn't want her daughter to be happy or have him, or if it was because she saw through Dustin Hoffman's character and thought he wasn't good enough for her daughter. I thought it was very interesting. But so him and the daughter end up going on a date though, and they have like one date, but they spin it as they kind of fell in love. And this movie reminded me a lot of Taxi Driver as it went on. I really like Taxi Driver. That's one of my favorites. And because in that movie he's kind of like a lonely, probably like late 20s, and he's got nothing going on, and then he tries to get a girl, but then he brings her to a porno theater, and he's just like so disillusioned from reality. He doesn't understand that it's a bad thing and all this stuff. But in this movie, so they go on a date, and then he's trying to sabotage it because he doesn't want to ruin his relationship with her mom, because her mom's all mad. So he brings her to like a strip club, and then she starts crying, and then he like apologizes because he did it on purpose to sabotage it, but then he goes and apologizes and just like kisses her, and then they go eat hamburgers and stuff and talk about how life is so lame and stuff, man, and how college whatever and people's expectations. And then so that's like their one connection. And I lost faith in the movie a little bit, because I thought it was going to go in the direction of they've fallen in true love, and then they're gonna get together no matter the odds, even if everyone's working against them and stuff. I thought that would have been like, I kind of expected that's where it was gonna go, and I didn't want it to go there because I was just very played out. But no, it was like, it kind of feels like on the surface level that's what it was like getting at. Like, that's kind of what the story is like conveying, but like the actual actions of the characters kind of tell a different story. And it was so the mom ends up being like, I'm gonna tell her that we had an affair, and then he runs and tells her, and then she's mad because that's insane. And then like a couple weeks later he goes and he goes to her college while she's finishing up her semester, like with the intent of like trying to get married with her. So he gets a place in like a local frat, and then starts bumming around, basically like stalking her until and that's what was so weird. So he starts stalking her, and then they kind of have a confrontation where she's like, why are you here? And he's like at his lowest point, because he just went and finally talked to her in public, and she brushed him off, and she's got another guy, and she's like, why are you here? And then I was like, ooh, here comes some emotional spillage, because he's just been kind of floating around, like he has nothing going on. He doesn't have friends at home. He left his college, but then he does the man thing where he just shuts down. He's like, I don't really want to talk right now, Elaine. I thought it was, I don't know. But she obviously sees something in him and then wants him still, like a little bit, but she's not sure. And then like the next day, like she's like, maybe I'll marry you. And then he's like, oh. And then the next day he's like bugging her all day. And then Like it wasn't cute at all. It was like really, like, annoying and weird. Like he was falling around all day and like we gotta go to the fucking we gotta go get our blood test so we can get married and stuff and all this stuff, and it was like, man, like it felt like it was being played as like, they're gonna get together, it's great, but it was like super weird. Like it was a weird disconnect, but I think it must have been intentional. Like it was very interesting. And then the family intervenes. She's going to get married to the guy she was talking to before. They're actually getting married, and then he storms in, and they like leave and go lock the family in the church and go get on a bus, and then it's like this triumphant moment, and then the end of it they kind of sit there and, man, I've been talking for 12 minutes. They kind of sit there and you just get their faces, and like they're both smiling, and then one stops smiling, and then the smile passes to the other, and then they like look at each other but don't make eye. It was like very, very interesting. I did not expect that of the movie at all. So it was just kind of weird. I think there's a lot of movies like that touch on, well, I don't know if a lot. Like I think of this and I think of Taxi Driver. Those movies that touch on like loneliness and directionlessness, and kind of like the way he latches onto her is like his only thing, and I don't know. It seems it probably feels more poignant these days than maybe it did back then, because I feel like, I mean, I wasn't alive back then, but I don't know, we're so disconnected as people right now, and I feel like, I mean, at least in my experiences, going into adulthood, I feel like people don't know how to connect with each other, and people don't know how to have like healthy like views of other people, especially with all the social media and stuff, where you're like watching handsome people and being like, why am I not like that, and all that stuff, and I guess you're at fault too, because you're watching some random guy tell you about whatever for 12 minutes. But yeah, I thought it was an interesting movie. That lamp went off. You should go check it out. Old movies are cool. I thought it was funny, like when you watch older movies like that, these days, they do whatever they want with the audio editing. Like they do ADR, like they re-record the dialogue in a studio and dub it over in case, a lot of times they really do that. If they can't get good audio, or maybe even if they can, just because they can re-record it in the studio and it's more controlled. But watching old movies from like the 60s and 70s where they didn't really have that technology as well, sometimes the audio editing can be like so rough, and there's like weird cuts, and the ADR sounds so bad. You can tell it was dubbed over later. It's cool watching, but they're still very well put together movies, because a lot of it comes down to the skill of using the camera and everything. It doesn't really take away from it too much, but yeah, that was my rambling about that movie. I thought it was cool. Go check it out. I'm gonna go to the used bookstore today, because there's been a couple books I've wanted to pick up, and I don't feel like going to Barnes & Noble and paying like $20 per book. Up at school, the other town where I go to school, there's like no used bookstores around, which is just so weird. Like there was one that was owned by well, there's one that was really weird. I think I'll talk about it tomorrow when I talk about the books or whatever. But yeah, I'm gonna go to the bookstore. Thanks for watching. I saw a couple people commented. I think YouTube did the thing where it like, you upload your first whatever, and then it shows it to more people than it probably should, so you get the little dopamine there. But thanks for following along if you're interested, and yeah, bye.